There we are. Are we on?
Oh, yeah. It says so, right? I bet it does.
It says we're on.
Well, there you go.
Yes, we are.
All right, we're on. Welcome, everybody. Hello, fermented folks, and welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction. Today we have a special guest. He says he's just a guy, but he is a new blog creator on Substack that I write with. This here is Zebadiah Boos, and we're going to have him introduce himself in a little bit and introduce the blog posts that he and I work together. This is a shameless plug. This whole episode, definitely.
How dare you?
Shameless plug. Today we have a good show for you, though, because we're going to be talking about one of Zeb's maybe favorite movies, maybe least favorite movies. You don't know. A very famous one, though, Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. Very big sci-fi hit. Joining us, we have the usual Colin Poynton and Jeremy Hudson. And I'm just going to start at the top of my screen here with our usual introductions. Jeremy.
What?
What's going on in your life, man?
Oh, it's an exciting time in my life. Allergy season comes early because my dog, who has been my update for several weeks now, she is blowing out her undercoat to grow a new one. So that's fun. It's like living in a snow globe.
Yeah, I know that life. Like, I have a corgi too, so it's like, where's all this hair coming from? You are literally this big. Like,
I know you'd think you'd run out of dog,
but you don't know. It just keeps coming.
Still haven't. In fact,
Nice.
I'm pretty sure there's more dog than when I started.
Love it. All right, Colin, what's going on in your life?
Well, I went to Stoop Brewing last Saturday on Capitol Hill. It's an awesome place. There's another one in Ballard that's super popular. So Stoop, highly recommend their beers. I don't have one of them right now, which is sad. But they're an amazing brewery, craft brewery in Seattle. Highly recommend them. And we got some Greek food there. We actually passed a Greek food truck as we were driving downtown. So this was on I-5. And like all of a sudden, my wife and I both were like, man, Greek food sounds so good, like at the same time. And then when we got there, who was pulling into the food truck spot next to the craft brewery? But that very Georgia's Greek food truck. And it was a debated question among those present. How do you pronounce the food Gyros?
Euros.
Euros. Not gyros. Not gyros. Euros.
Yeah, it's only gyros if you go to a Mexican restaurant and order the fajitas. Okay?
But that's a J, not a G, so there's a whole dispute there too.
They're different languages, Travis. You got to keep up a little bit.
That's fair. That's fair. I would say it's the Euros.
Is it GIF or GIF?
The G stands for graphical, so I would say GIF.
GIF.
But here's the interesting thing, though.
Oh.
First of all, we do need to settle that debate as to where that came from, why there's a G in there, especially considering Greek history and phonetics. Yeah. But also, they wrote it on their menu, Yeeros.
So they wrote it phonetically.
So clearly they're passionate about this subject, and they want people to say Euros.
Euros, yeah.
Which also prompts the question, what if we did that more often? What if, anyone who is upset about pronunciation just spelled things phonetically?
Yeah.
Curious, no?
Hey, no, I'm a firm believer that everything in the world should be spelled phonetically. And that very much also goes for my niece, Rayleigh Deanne. Neither of those names are spelled how you think.
All right. Or Irish names. I love Irish names.
Oh.
And one of my favorite games is like,
those are tough.
What does this name say? Like Siobhan. What's that?
Yeah.
Or any town in England. if
Right.
it's small enough.
If it's small enough. Well, I think that's a great debate to have, but definitely not one related to movies or books, but a good debate. So thank you, Colin, for bringing it to our attention once again. My short update is actually not mine. And I won't get into much detail, but an exciting thing that happened in my wife's life is for reasons that, again, I will not say publicly. She was unable to drive for a little while. She just walked in. Nothing bad, nothing she did. It had nothing to do with her. It was just like a thing that she just couldn't drive for a little while. Makes life a little difficult. Got to give her rides. I didn't mind at all. But transportation is huge, and people don't realize how huge it is until it's taken away from you. And she just last week got her license kind of back, and is driving to the gym, to work, to all these things, and very happy about it. And I'm very happy for her. She can drive again. I would have given her rides for the rest of her life if she needed it, but I don't think that would have been ideal for her. So I'm very excited that Chloe can drive her car again.
Well, hell yeah. Now, I, for one, would, of course, never drive anywhere if I could get away with it, but not being able to go anywhere sucks butt.
Yeah,
So
there's a
also
Yeah,
difference.
Montana's a problem with that.
Yeah, and there's a difference between like I choose to not drive. Like I know people who do that live in the city. Like I know a person in Philadelphia who's like, I just don't see the reason to ever own a car because I can get everywhere I want on the bus or the subway. There's a difference between that and like literally being told like you can't drive anywhere. The free will factors in a big way. But that leads us to our last introduction here and our life update. Our guest for today, Zebadiah Boos, longtime fan of the show. I think a day oneer, at least a day twoer. He was one of the first people I sent a link out to when me and Clayton started doing this during COVID, and he's been with us ever since. We're happy to have him on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Zeb, and a little bit about Meathead Media.
All right. Well, thank you. Just to clarify, I'm pretty sure I'm a day tour because Philip Bridgers apparently dethroned me as the day.
He was the day oneer.
He was so quick, man.
He's so quick. Okay. I'm Zeb. I'm a doc student out in Milwaukee, working on a PhD in exercise science. I also just have a passion for movies and media. So this show has always been a favorite of mine. I was there since it was Sinister Soup. Loved every time it came out on Tuesday. And Travis and I have been friends for quite a while, so there was no hesitation when he asked me to come on this podcast. My life update is one that I think a lot of you will resonate with, and I'm happy to be surrounded by teachers. Tomorrow morning, I give my first actual lecture as like a guest lecturer at a college level class.
Nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
What are you lecturing on?
I am going to be talking about the concept of sport periodization when it comes to strength training and resistance training. So it's going to be part lesson.
I've been very curious about this ever since I started following the famous YouTuber Renaissance Periodization. Mike, I can never pronounce his last name. What does periodization mean in the exercise science context?
Okay. Do you know Milo of Croton? The famous story of the guy that carried the bull up a hill every day as it got bigger and bigger?
Yeah.
Okay. Ancient Greek story. He spoke to an oracle. The oracle said, you want to win in wrestling, carry this bull up a hill every day, you'll get stronger. He did, then he ate the bull. Periodization is the implementation of progressive overload. So it's basically the long-term plan that helps you adapt to certain levels of stress. Stress being jump training, speed training, exercise and resistance, anything like that. If you have a scheme that progresses week by week by week, changes in either volume, intensity, or load, that's periodization. And it always has to have a goal at the end. Otherwise, then it's just exercise training.
Gotcha. All right. Now I know that. Thank you. And then the last thing I'll ask you, Can you tell a little bit about Meathead Media and where to find
Yeah.
awesome articles and reviews on different movies?
All right.
We're up to what? I think 8 articles now or something like that.
At least, and 8 subscribers.
Woo!
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're making it in the big leagues. Meathead Media is the brainchild of Travis. He texted me and he said, "Hey, I'm already on 3 different podcasts. Do you want to do another?" And I said, "Absolutely. This is the chance I've been waiting for." So we discussed what we would kind of focus on. We decided, we want a fun name. We're going to do it on Substack, which is a free platform. And so every week we switch back and forth, some form of media, whether that's books, like Travis's article on Nathaniel Philbrick's Revolutionary War series is one of our second reviews, or movies. We kind of stayed more on the movie side for the past couple of weeks, but it fits the themes. Each month is a different theme. So January was new beginnings, February was the depth of love, and now March is plot twists. So look for our posts every Monday. We post at 10 a.m. right when you get to work, because boss makes $1, you make a dime. So read Substack on company time.
I like that. I like that a lot. Zeb,
Listen, you just gained another subscriber.
thank you, Colin.
Boom.
Zeb just wrote a really good article about one of the most famous plot twists of all time, which is The Usual Suspects. And I think he had a really good take on it and a good review of it. So, yeah, shameless plug. Please check us out. But you are not all here for Meathead Media. You are all here for Fermented Fiction. And today we are talking about Interstellar, directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Matthew McConaughey, Jessica Chastain, Anne Hathaway, Michael Caine, and a plethora of other really famous actors, because who doesn't want to be in a Christopher Nolan movie, right? The movie's plot, for those who don't know, you've been living under a rock, is Matthew McConaughey's character is tasked by a future NASA that is kind of an underground organization to travel through a wormhole and try and find a habitable planet in a different galaxy, leaving behind his daughter, who then the story kind of splits to her perspective as an adult as she tries to sort of find her dad through exploration of science as well, and also solve the problem of the world running out of food supply. That's it in a nutshell. There's a lot of complex science in it and such, but we're going to get into all that in our open discussion. First, though, Zeb, we're going to switch things up. Since you're a fan turned guest, I'm going to let you pick, since you've seen all of us debate before, who do you want to roll against to debate Interstellar?
Yeah, I assume you've analyzed all our weaknesses, so you know who to take down and how.
Yes, Jeremy, you're a hater. There's plain and simple.
I rather disagree.
No, I'm sorry. I only have personal beef because of your opinion on Lord of the Rings. Travis, we won't get into it. I promise. No disrespect, Jeremy. Just
No, don't worry. We will. It's fine. We do like every other episode.
Yeah.
Colin has always been more the behind the scenes, keeping things running smooth. So Travis, I want to debate you.
All right,
I think
buddy.
Get 'em.
We already had a conversation on our first podcast, so bring it on.
Let's do it. Okay, let me get my dice here. Do you have a dice or do you need one?
Oh, Travis, how could you forget? These are the dice you gave me.
Oh, got him.
Zeb and I are also in a D&D game together and possibly play the dumbest group of characters I have ever been in a party with. And I'm one of the dumb ones. Like we're idiots and it's great.
I mean,
It's pure
got to be.
unadulterated chaos.
All right. You ready?
Ready.
Jeremy, you got the timer?
I got the timer. I always got a timer, man.
Zeb,
Like some brotherly fighting right here. Some Cain and Abel story going on.
Right. Zeb, what'd you roll?
17.
Oh, 15. I rolled good too, and I still lost.
Oh yeah, that was one of the better losses you've had.
I know.
Keep it going, Travis.
Yep, got to keep that losing streak up. All right, Jeremy,
All
count
right.
count us in.
All right, let's go. Let's do it. We have where I want a good cleanish fight that is specifically and intentionally bound within the conventions of what we know to be scientifically accurate. Time dilation does not count in this debate. So we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Travis, this is an honor. First, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. Second, I want to say Interstellar is one of the greats. It is instant classic. This is not a movie you have to watch twice, as compared to some of Christopher Nolan's other classics, Memento, Inception, Dunkirk. The list goes on. He loves time, but those other movies require 2 or 3 watches. Interstellar is one that does not. From the get-go, we have an amazing soundtrack, a stellar cast, and a theme that I think really is a gut punch throughout every major scene in the movie. Okay, this entire premise is love, and that is really what drives it. And I love that as a metaphysical overlay to the whole plot of the movie.
All right, starting off with just some heavy hitting, short to the point statements. And I'll start off with the same, Zeb, so that we can have a little back and forth here. First heavy hitting statement: most overrated Christopher Nolan movie ever. Like, Interstellar gets quoted as his magnum opus, and I think it's bottom tier Nolan. It goes Tenet, and then it goes Interstellar, and that's it. That's the ranking right there. And Tenet was not very good, so Interstellar, not good for you. Second little heavy hitting statement here: if you're going to write a character into a movie, use the character to their full extent. Do not just use them as a backdrop to say, oh, here's a little flavor for our main character that we actually care about. I'm talking about, I think everyone knows, Tom. Hey, Cooper, you have a son. Your whole life does not revolve around your daughter, Murphy. You have another child who just shows up, is coincidentally Timothy Chalamet. So it's like, okay, you got one of the best new up-and-coming actors that we know, who is now just like an Oscar winner, I think. He just won an Oscar. Nope, he did not. He lost to Adrian Brody. I'm sorry. But Oscar nominee for playing Bob Dylan and Dune Part 2 and all these excellent films. You had that amount of talent, and what'd you use him for? Just like a couple like ugly stepchild scenes where you're going to just throw him away and be like, oh. And I think it solidified the point of Nolan in this movie. It's hard for me to really, really, really love his message, because I don't think it was his intention, but in elevating like science is the most important pursuit ever, and all people care about in this world of hunger is farming, and kind of just pushing the son character to the side, you get this weird subliminal message of like, okay, yes, science does matter, but if the whole world is starving and running out of food supply, I think it actually is pretty important for everyone who can to be a farmer and to grow food. And that resonated with me of like, farmers are incredibly important, and we should not diminish their importance by saying like, oh no, NASA is going to save the world. Maybe they are, but you know what's saving the world in the moment? Corn. And I think that message gets lost, and I think it's especially tied to Tom, because Tom just gets shoved to the side as the side role. You see him a little bit as a kid, and then when they grow up as adults, he's really not mentioned anymore, other than like he farmed and the grandpa died and Tom was there and Murph was being her dad, but a woman. And yeah, that's my first criticisms.
All right, look, I think you raised some excellent points, but this is what really contributes to Christopher Nolan's mastery. Yes, Tom was a side character, but it's a perfect parallel. Farming became the MO, while science and NASA became something in the background, which really is the exact opposite of the way it was, let's say, maybe in the 50s and 60s when the space program was starting to take off. So what we're seeing is actually the interweaving of different trends. So yes, while Tom does get pushed back and farming kind of becomes a hope that is lost almost entirely, you need that foil to show why it was so necessary for NASA to stay underground until the last possible minute. So that's my rebuttal to your issue with farming. Also, I think they made it pretty clear that farming was no longer an option because of the blight that was affecting the crops worldwide. However, science, I think, should have figured that out at some point. So I will concede he does have some constraints there, but this is within the constraints of a movie that you can't spend so much time world building world when the whole rest of the movie is focused on interplanetary and interstellar travel. Now, going to the point about Tom being a side character, yeah, sometimes you have those in movies, especially when it wasn't Tom that ended up saving the world. It was Jessica Chastain. All right. She saved the world. So of course she's going to be one of the main plot drivers. And now I know where you're going next. You're going to start talking about some bootstrap paradox and the grandfather paradox with time. But you got to remember, time is a construct that's only linear for us, three-dimensional beings, four-dimensional. Once you go beyond that, in the tesseract, then it becomes five-dimensional, and then time is a circle. I'm preemptive. I'm getting to you.
You preemptively judged something correct. I am going to talk about the time thing next, but I'm not going to criticize that. I'm going to criticize the fact that Christopher Nolan keeps doing this. He keeps going like, I was a science nerd in high school. I love this time constraint stuff. I love to think outside the box there. Chris, great. You need to build a story around your little scientific experiment movie. Like, you need to actually have a coherent plot that doesn't just drag on and lasso us viewers behind the horse as you just drag us through your dust bowl. Because that's what I feel like a lot of his movies do. That was Tenet. That was this, where it's like, I get your big ideas, man, and they are cool. Like, I won't deny it is pretty sick to watch a physicist, an astrophysicist, use a Hollywood film like Interstellar in a lecture about black holes and say like, hey, they got it right. That's pretty cool. But there needs to be a plot built around that is more than just this kind of like poorly constructed, really weirdly done map of different characters trying to save the world, and then they get involved with like a gravity thing, and then Matthew McConaughey is the ghost for his daughter, and by the time we get to that point that's supposed to be this big emotional payoff, we're either so bored or so confused that we kind of stop caring.
I refuse to believe you weren't choked up at the last scene when she's laying in bed 40 to 50 years older than her father, and she says, I knew you were coming back for me because my dad said he would. The whole plot, yes.
Zeb, it's hard to be choked up when you're asleep. So
all right, fine. You're asleep, you can't get choked up. But you know what? For those of us that were invested, not thinking about the nitty-gritty about interstellar travel and too many plot characters, those of us that were focused on the love aspect, the thing that's really driving this entire theme, because the only reason Matthew McConaughey went on this adventure was to get back to his daughter and make sure his daughter had kids. This was sacrificial love at its finest. All right. Love is the overarching theme that drove it forward. So if you fell asleep, I got questions. I got questions about your ability to love.
I don't know. I think I love just fine, but I think Inception shows this as well. Like, Christopher Nolan has a problem with setting up a really good first act that gets you sucked into the story. Then his second act starts to slow down a little. And then by the third act, we feel the full weight of the 2.5 hour run times that he's so want to do. It's happened ever since he got like kind of big with Inception. All his grandiose movies have had that, where I literally feel like a stone of the weight of the time. They're not very well paced. They always drag at the end, and he does not know how to end his third act. Inception had it with the van scene that just kept doing slow motion of the people falling, and I'm like, okay, we get it. They're in a different time, and all this stuff is happening in a dream. Get to the point. I think it happened with Interstellar, with the room and the gravity, and Matthew McConaughey coming to the realization of the Tesseract's reality. And even some of the black hole scene. And I think it happened in Tenet with all of the stuff with the actual like backwards in time scenes. And I will hate to say it, Oppenheimer had the same problem where it's like at the end of the third act, I just know that I've watched a 2.5 hour movie. I can feel that just drudge of a pace. And Nolan has done that for a while. And I miss the days of The Prestige. I miss the days of Memento that were just this quick. And I'll give you 8 seconds. Go.
Time is an issue for Christopher Nolan.
Everybody shut up now.
All right.
It's over, and you need
Look at
to
that
let it go.
timing. What a cherry
Oh my
on
God.
that.
Yeah, that was great. All right. Well, that leads us to fermented drink of the week. Beer of the week is what we
Beer of
used
the
to
week,
call
hey
it.
guys.
Hey,
We
everybody.
still call it that.
We still call it that, even though we're rarely drinking beer. Jeremy, let's just start with you to get this pain over with.
I've been bringing the beer every week.
What delightful liquor did you mix with some atrocious soda this week?
Now, hey, Travis, hey. First of all, in memory of all the wheat that died in this film, and in honor of the corn still holding it down, I decided to finish off this bottle of Eagle Rare. And because I couldn't find anything here that would upset you that I would also think will taste pretty good, I just made a tall old fashioned with it. Okay?
Well
You all need
done.
to calm down.
Well done.
Ah,
Thank you so much, Jeremy. That is a great choice. That is a great choice. Well
truly a
done.
fantastic choice. But I do have to ask: is it a Wisconsin style old fashioned? As a resident of the motherland of Wisconsin, we are particular.
They're wrong.
Now, a Wisconsin style old fashioned is what exactly?
Thank you for asking. I was hoping you would. A Wisconsin style old fashioned is for those that drink heavily but like to drink over very long periods of time, i.e., people from Wisconsin. So a
The
Wisconsin style
entire
old fashioned-
Midwest, yes.
the entire Midwest. So Wisconsin style old fashioned has the sugars, the bitter, the cherry, and the muddled orange all muddled together. Then your liquor of choice, brandy, bourbon, whiskey, rye, and then topped either with soda or with Sprite.
So no, I don't have it that way. I have it the what I like to call still having leftovers from Christmas method, wherein I have a citrus infused simple syrup and some candied orange and lemon peels mixed in with whiskey and ice.
Nice.
Mm,
All
that
right.
is sensational combo.
Colin, what are you drinking? Also, your camera's
this
off.
week-
Is that intentional?
My other life update was I just took my Christmas lights down,
Oh, okay.
and this is the last Black Raven Brewing Company Festivus infused pale ale.
Nice.
I knew you could do it.
I'm glad we have you as a riding a jackalope. So
That is pretty good.
it is good.
Hell yeah!
All right. I brought Valhalla meadery. This is the Trickster. It is kind of one of their main meads. They're a place here in Bozeman. They're quite good. I don't know how to describe the mead. I'm not very I don't have a flavor palate for mead yet. I just started drinking it like this year, but I figured thematically honey and like bees, the bees going extinct, I feel like that would be our Interstellar. Like that's closer to a possibility right now than wheat, dying off completely. So I was like, you know what? Here's for the bees and here's for the honey, because that substance is weirdly miraculous. Like honey's crazy. And I'm never not just astounded by it. It also
Yeah,
tastes
that's some wild goo right there.
wild nature goo. Zeb, what are you drinking?
All right. I cannot casually drink. I can't just have one beer. So I brought something fermented instead. This is poppy. This is a prebiotic. So technically it meets the fermented criteria.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Yes, thank you. I know it's not that exciting, but I've studied hard and long, and I believe having a poppy on the show is the first, hence the
Hey.
choice.
It's fermented. I love it.
Yeah, I'm fully supporting you popping it long and hard.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was a good one.
That was a very good one. All
That was a
right,
good one.
Colin, I'm sure this movie has a laundry list of facts, and I'm just ready to hear them.
All right, I got some solid fermented facts. Am I still only a picture? Question.
No, you
Nah,
are
you got
now-
like lips and shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're now a human.
Oh no. Good thing I put my human skin suit back on.
Yes, good.
So the runtime of this film is 2 hours and 49 minutes.
Yep.
Its production budget, I never would have guessed this. Random guesses as to budget of this film.
$250 million.
That's
Less.
what I was. Ooh, 175. 175.
$165 million.
Yeah, a lot less than I would have thought with how
Wow.
good it looks.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So directed by Christopher Nolan, written by his brother Jonathan Nolan.
Okay.
And originally, this blew my mind. So it had 5 Academy Awards, and the visual effects were groundbreaking. It actually changed the way some movies were made, the way they put things together. The robot in the film was an actual puppet, not CGI.
Nice.
And where are some other facts of mine? It was composed by Hans Zimmer with his now iconic organ composition.
Mm-hmm.
And the screenplay went through multiple revisions. And actually, I don't know where this fact of mine went, but originally it was going to be directed by Steven Spielberg.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm glad that didn't happen. Actually, I love Steven, but
Right.
I don't think his touch would have been the same on this.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been as sad the whole time.
Did you know that the spacesuits that they wear actually work as well? Because the actors were, required to be in them so long, they have water cooling systems and working oxygen.
Wow.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And Anne Hathaway almost drowned because water got into her suit during that piece of the film.
That sounds right.
And got hypothermia.
And I'm pretty sure, I didn't find this anywhere, but I'm pretty sure I heard a while back that this film came out in 2014, and the actual NASA composite first picture of a real black hole came out years after this.
Yes.
And it
Oh.
looks exactly the same.
Yes.
That-
Oh, yeah.
They actually involved several physicists in the 3D rendering of that black hole scene to visualize what it would be like, and they got it spot on.
Yeah, they had to rewrite a lot because generally in VFX, light is just a basic thing that follows a straight path. But when you're dealing with something like a black hole, you can't do that because, so they had to do a lot of bananas ass math and change how visual effects are done for space.
And
It's
didn't
fun.
it take like 1,000 hours of rendering just to get a couple of those shots?
Probably.
I feel like I heard that somewhere.
For the real thing?
Not the actual image of the black hole that came out years later. The Interstellar black hole took so many hours of rendering because of that complex math and that modeling.
Mhm.
Wow.
Great.
All right.
Yeah.
Colin, what else you got?
Let's see. The Neil deGrasse Tyson has talked about higher spatial dimensions, and there's a theory in physics about how maybe gravity can move freely through dimensions. If you think of like a metaverse, gravity is a force that runs between them, which makes a lot of the math work out better because we don't know how gravity syncs up with these other three fundamental forces. And so there's no evidence for it necessarily, but it would be nice if gravity was a force that like can move between dimensions and explains some of the way it interacts and doesn't interact with things. And they pursue that in this movie. So like they say that in this movie, and that's how these future humans or aliens are able to connect and talk and communicate and work with Cooper in this specialty dimension that's been fashioned for him.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can, if gravity is the force that can move through dimensions, then they just pull that up into a higher spatial dimension as well and make that like part of the plot.
I love it. This movie's so dense. What else you got?
Those were the majority of my fronted facts. I'm sure y'all have more.
Zeb, Jeremy, before I jump in with one that I really want to highlight.
I already went in with mine.
All right.
Go for it.
I just want to shout out. We have kind of been doing something that I unintentionally started doing, but I want to keep doing, of like shouting out some of the behind the scenes people that are doing things that I don't think get recognized a ton. And we have a really recent Oscar winner on the credits of this movie that I think deserves a shout out, because if you look at his filmography, it's insane. So the production designer for this movie, Nathan Crowley, that worked for the art department as the art director and the production designer, making this movie like look real, like planting literal acres of corn so that they didn't have to CGI corn. He just won an Oscar for Wicked, and he did it again, by the way. They had a whole scene where they're walking through the lilies, and he just planted like acres of lilies for 2 shots. Like the intensity of production design the man puts in. And you look at his list, like Wonka, whether or not you like it, can't deny that movie looks amazing. Tenet, First Man, The Greatest Showman, which is a really good example of this because I hate that movie, but I will never tell you it looks bad. Like, it looks so beautiful. Dunkirk, the Westworld TV series, Interstellar, all the Dark Knight movies, John Carter, another one I wasn't a fan of, but it looks amazing. Public Enemies, The Prestige, Insomnia. So yeah, just a shout out to Nathan Crowley for just like knocking it out of the park. And I've heard, I'm not sure, I think he might be doing Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, and again, Nolan hates CGI. And I kept wondering, like, how are they going to do the Cyclops? A puppet. They just made a giant puppet for the Cyclops in The Odyssey. So I'm going to keep advertising that movie for a long time because I'm so pumped for it. But yeah, Nathan Crowley. Production design doesn't get enough credit because holy crap, do they make a movie look good when they're on their A game.
Yeah.
Sensational.
All right. Go ahead, Zeb.
I was going to say, I do remember hearing that cornfield fact. That was like one take, and then they ended up selling the corn for a profit.
Yep. They sold the corn. I don't know what they did with the lilies for Wicked. That'd be interesting to find out.
I hope they blasted them out of a cannon.
Maybe with the monkeys. But anyway, that wraps it up for our fermented facts, which means we're getting into the open discussion portion of this show. Yeah. So, I have a lot to talk about, but before we start, oh wait, I will start, won't I?
Yeah, you have to start.
I have to start.
You've got to follow our rules, Travis.
I lied. I did. I lied a lot. This isn't my favorite Nolan movie. That's about the only thing that I kind of told the truth about. I enjoy Dunkirk more, but that's just because Dunkirk is like my favorite historical event in history. I love that. I love that moment in humanity is such a cool moment. But Interstellar is I think undeniably beautiful, undeniably well shot, really well written. I do think it has a couple pacing problems because there's so much. I don't think that's the plot being bad. I think it's just they packed so much into the story that it does.
It's undeniably long.
It is undeniably long and it drags in some parts. But it's beautiful. The performances are great. It kind of made Matthew McConaughey like a serious, like this in True Detective made people stop saying like, oh, that's the guy from Dazed and Confused, and start actually taking him seriously, which was great. Jessica Chastain does awesome. Michael Caine, as always, is amazing. So yeah, I can sing the praises and I will continue to sing the praises of this movie, but it moved filmmaking ahead in a great way and did so while also being a fantastically written, shot, and acted film. So good on you, Christopher. This is definitely in your top 3 for me. Not sure if it's 2 or 3 though. I really like The Prestige as well. I think The Prestige is one of his most underrated movies. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. I lied about all of my criticisms. I love this movie. Zeb?
I love this movie. I'm not going to hesitate to say it. However, Travis, you brought up some great points about the time aspect. Those are ones that I picked up during my second and third movies where I thought, I think Chris really needs to get a new main theme. You know, I'm getting kind of tired of this time shit.
You know who's not? It's Christopher Nolan.
I like he's really like found a gravy train and is running with it because people don't understand time. So anybody who watches all of his movies goes, I don't understand. And he goes, exactly. That's the whole thing. Are we still in a dream or what? Like,
is the Odyssey is just going to be like, turns out Odysseus was a time traveler the whole time.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I was just wondering. There's like the opening scene, there's telephones and shit.
Yeah, he's gonna be like on Cersei's island because apparently in the story he spends like 10 years there. It's just gonna be on Cersei's island, just reiterating the story, talking about all his lost time.
Yeah, maybe. I will say before
Cooper comes into the frame at some point.
It's gravity. Yeah, never mind. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. This isn't about the Odyssey. It's about Interstellar. But go ahead, Zip.
Yeah, I think it's a great movie. I do think that the length of it does kind of hinder the real gut punch at the end, and that detracts from it a little. I also didn't appreciate the lack of resolution with Anne Hathaway's character, Dr. Brand. I think he could have really developed the story more by pursuing that aspect of Anne Hathaway's character. And like, as I was watching, I really wanted to see her and Matthew McConaughey go to Dr. Edmund's planet and like try to, work things out. I like the space exploration when there's survival, not when it's just completely against the odds. But to that point, Romley, when he like knocks on the aluminum wall in that scene, he's like, there's only millimeters between us and death. I think that's kind of Christopher Nolan's point, is like, you are adventurers, you're explorers, so go for it, send it. And that's kind of the point of the movie, is like, that's why Cooper ejected and sent Dr. Brand on her way. He's like, somebody's got to go. So he just went peace in the black hole. And I don't know why. I don't know. Tell me if you guys felt this too. I was starting to get emotional for the robots, like TARS. I was like, yeah. What a guy. What a guy.
What a guy.
What a guy.
I don't think that was unintentional. I think this was my 4th viewing of the movie. I missed the subtle line in the very beginning of when they intercept the
drone.
The drone, and I guess it's not that subtle of a line, but it gets lost in the scope of the film. But there's a line where Murph, as the kid, is like, why don't we just like put the thing back in the air? It's not hurting anyone. So like already the movie kind of very puts that little seed in your mind of like, there's no longer this disconnection with the AI. We almost see them as a different kind of creature, almost like an animal now. Because I really thought it was cool that Cooper's response isn't to be like, it's just a robot. His response is like, it needs to adapt like the rest of us have. Like he doesn't say it's something that's below animalistic nature. He says like, no, like this thing needs to help us out just like we've been helping each other out. So I think that seed is planted pretty early that like these artificial beings are kind of just animals at this point in this futuristic world.
It's
Which is
also
good
like
because all the rest of the animals died.
Yeah.
it's also, I
Colin?
mean, that's basically like the Data from Star Trek, in the sense that like they debate his humanity, and like to their credit, Tars is like essential to their survival, and they treat him as such,
Mhm.
even though he's such a Minecraft character,
Mhm.
like not humanistic at all, and yet has this great voice.
Zeb,
It's all about that voice.
you brought up my first question though, and that is the ending with Anne Hathaway's character, because this is where I probably actually would have sang its praises. I think it's very hard sometimes to pull off a good ambiguous, my word, can't talk, ambiguous ending. And I actually liked this because I think I like an ambiguous ending that gives the character in our minds that's going to continue on past the story a purpose. And I guess that's my question to all of y'all. Zeb, there's a reason you didn't like it. What is that reason? And what do you all like ambiguous endings? And if not, why? Do you like some? What is it about the some that you do like that you find enjoyable? Yeah, just a question for everybody. What is your opinion on ambiguity in the end of a story?
Maybe it's a deep look into my psyche, but I don't do well with just hope alone. So looking at her character and just hoping that she was going to be okay struck a dissonant chord with me. I don't like not knowing, and maybe that's just high anxiety, but I really, I wanted to see like full resolution. I love happy endings. I like when things come full circle, unless I'm watching horror, then it makes sense. But this was supposed to be kind of an uplifting ending, is what I garnered. But it's one of the reasons why I didn't like it. And with that, I'll pass it on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. So for me, like, I love the occasional ambiguous ending, but it has to check some certain boxes for me to be on the side of, oh, this was good, and you're not just a lazy like dickhead. So like, first of all, it needs to be something that is worth talking about, something with the factor of like, ooh, what happened? How does this factor into what we just saw? Is it something interesting? But it also has to like not be totally necessary to the feeling of a story being satisfying.
Mm.
So it, like, with this, I'm totally fine. It's not the thing I care about the most, and the main point of the story in this, to me, is not, like, but what are Matthew McConaughey and Hathaway gonna kiss, or what? Are they gonna pork down? What's going on there? Sure, I have thought of it, but that's not like, it doesn't ruin the story for me not knowing whether they smash, essentially. Yeah. Whereas like, for me, the ending that's left ambiguous in, say, Inception, where like, oh, was he awake or dreaming? Oh, like, well, from the story that's being told, that actually doesn't really matter. So I think that is a bad ambiguous ending.
Hot take.
It just fully doesn't matter.
You don't think it matters if he's awake or dreaming? Because
no.
Okay.
Not
And
even
you-
a little bit, because, and I will defend it.
Okay.
I will go on and say it.
Please.
I mean, what's an episode without me having just an unbelievably out of nowhere hot take?
Not an
So-
episode.
It's not. It couldn't be one. But no, I think it doesn't matter in Inception whether Cobb was awake or dreaming, because dreaming, for one thing, is the thing he's doing, and it's set up pretty early on that all of this might as well be dreaming, but it also doesn't matter for the journey he's on. He wants to like reconnect with his kids, and if he gets back to reality and that's just not something that's possible, then that sucks. And if that's something that he can only do in dreaming, like he's still doing it, even if it's not as real as it would be if it were real and happening. So to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the story and the arc of any of the characters in the film.
Interesting.
I can see that. That's a very interesting
Yeah.
take. Maybe we'll have to do Inception one episode, because I might disagree, but also I don't think you don't have a point. Also, for the record, before Colin jumps in with his ambiguous ending comment, I didn't acknowledge the fact that in a previous episode, Jeremy, you changed my mind.
I did.
It's been several episodes since it, but Nosferatu, when you convinced me that the ending was in absolutely no way good, and that was the point.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of trying to make it good. I was trying to find that nugget of like, there's some pleasantness here. Nope, I agree with you. It was all bad,
Yeah,
but-
everybody just fully loses there.
but in a good way.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Great movie.
Everybody go
Anyway,
watch it.
Colin, ambiguous endings.
I thought for sure Travis was going to be like, and Jeremy convinced me Tom Bombadil does really suck, and
No.
he should have like less than half of what he has in Lord of the Rings.
He needs more. Give him 2 more chapters.
I'll take a Tom Bombadil book, but
Yeah.
he has no place
Whole book.
in that book.
I disagree. Anyway, Colin, ambiguous
Cut it out, move it
endings.
over.
What do you think?
No, I know. Actually, Jeremy makes an incredible point that I agree with this time,
Holy crap.
which is that like Brand has like her own journey and story going off, and it's not the main character story of Coop. And so like there's more leeway there. If the entire film is focused on an ambiguous ending, there has to be kind of a setup for it. And so I'm more willing to have a more ambiguous ending for, what is technically a supporting character role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and don't correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't finish my rewatch. I got too busy over the weekend. But doesn't Coop kind of goes back to find Brand, right?
Yes.
Yep, he steals a ship and just roll credits.
Okay.
Yeah,
'cause
off he goes again.
that's kind of what I liked about it. Like, and I get you, Zeb, that it's not a cut and dry like answer, and it's more of a hope thing. Like maybe he finds her, maybe he doesn't. But my argument would be, I think, so I'm trying to figure out how to word this. When we're given context clues in any story, or even in like nonfiction, in like studying history, when we're given like context clues of what's going to happen thematically, I think we can just make that assumption. Like Interstellar doesn't leave me with the assumption that Coop's story is going to end hopelessly, because the rest of the ending, it's been good. Like, it's been sad, but he reconnects with his daughter. She figures out the like save the world thing. All the good is revealed in the end. And so I think that's the writer kind of giving you this brain cue of like, yeah, you're not going to get the Coop ending where he actually finds Anne Hathaway's character. But I haven't given you any reason to think that ends bad. You know?
Sure.
I think that's kind of, and I wonder if there's other examples you guys can think of a story doing that, because I think that's just a thing that we humans naturally do. Not Pascal's wager. What's the oh my word? Is it Occam's razor? The
simplest answer being the best one?
simplest answer is usually the best one. Like
mathematically speaking, at least.
We kind of just naturally do this of like, if my whole life has told me that my wife is not a Russian spy, she probably isn't. And so like I can just trust the context clues on faith that story is going to end well. I hope Chloe is not a Russian spy. Maybe she is, but I take on faith because of all of the clues in my life that I've gotten that she's not. And I think stories can do that sometimes too, of like, you can just have faith that this person's story probably ends well because everything else has.
Yeah. And, to comfort you on your suspicions of your wife being a Russian spy, leading a double life is very hard. If you want proof, try for a week to not fart in front of your wife. Can you?
No.
Can you?
No. I won't even try and think that's true because
I do it on purpose.
my diet is not conducive to that kind of lie. Lots of protein.
Amen, brother. Amen.
But I don't know. Do you have other examples of stories that kind of do that, of like, you have hope that the ending is good because they give you those context clues?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I can think of a lot of movies that don't have, true endings. Like, all right, we're gonna do it. The Return of the King.
It has like 4.
I mean, it ends all the stories. It's good.
Frodo, we know he goes to the Grey Havens.
Yep.
And they skip over, the pillaging of the Shire. But when I was reading the book, all I could think was, oh my gosh, nothing's ever going to go back to normal. And that made me feel hopeless, even though when I read the last line and it's Samwise talking about Rosie, I still was like, oh no, is it gonna be okay? Somebody tell me it's okay.
Jeremy, Colin?
Well, as far as like hopeful endings that are left a little ambiguous, I feel like I see it like all the time. You have like the ending of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Everything ends happily, but you know that not everything is fully resolved for all the characters, and you have Zuko just being like, where is my mother? And like, ooh, there's gonna be adventures. Ooh, boy.
Yeah.
There are in graphic novels for anybody interested. They're okay.
Yeah. And
but
I mean,
you get the answers.
There was that little bit of a continuation with Legend of Korra, but I feel like they did enough distance from the original series to make their own thing.
Honestly, trying to answer that, trying to keep the series going to answer that would have been bad.
Would have been bad, yeah.
I was looking at a list of the top films ever made and trying to remember the endings of them. Jaws. Do you remember the end of Jaws?
No, I don't really remember the ending. Isn't he just like in the water?
On the boat?
Yeah.
Yeah, the remnants of the boat. Yeah.
The shark's dead, and he's just like floating in the ocean.
Yeah, and they like paddle back to shore, I guess. So that's fun.
I guess we hope, because the danger's gone. So that's a great example.
I mean, there was a Jaws 2, so who knows? Maybe they're alive. I don't know.
We don't recognize Jaws 2 or 3.
That's not canon.
It's not canon. Just Jaws 1. Jaws 1 is canon.
You telling me a shark swam all the way around the Horn of Africa just to bite somebody again? No.
Yes.
God, I hope so. I hope sharks feel vengeance.
Another one is Braveheart.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that actually the beginning in like virtually everyone is going to read the first page of every book. Everyone is going to watch the first minute of every film, but not everyone is going to watch the last minute or read the last page. Mm-hmm. So beginnings always have to be good. And I think that we've talked about this before on the show. Like, we can, as viewers, we're pretty okay with passing over a bunch of mistakes and confusing plot holes if a bunch of other stuff is really good. Like, if we're
Yeah.
really into it, we're willing to overlook some of this stuff. And I think there's some of that, definitely questions that I have about Interstellar that's like, did we ever get an answer to that? You know? But it's just so good overall that like I'm willing to overlook it. And when it comes to endings, I think that I've noticed recently too that maybe they have a bigger purpose to the storyline where, you know, sometimes the camera will pan out and it's like, this was a story about a moment in time, you know, where in a way that's kind of a Lord of the Rings ending sort of thing. Like, we're with these characters, but actually this is just one moment in time in this way bigger story. And we have like, there's more of a thematic message to it versus I think Interstellar does a pretty good job at really pushing character driven science fiction, which some people are really bored of like science driven science fiction. So, you know, we focus on Cooper at the end, which, you know, it'd probably be completely different if the camera just panned out and showed the universe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We want to see Cooper. We want to see him. Jeremy, and then we got to talk about one of the greatest scenes in film history, I think. I don't think it'll be controversial to say it.
Don't worry, we'll find a way. But no, this goes to something or other that Colin said of, you know, things being kind of left out, and as long as the movie's cool, yeah, I think this movie rules. I also think that they say pretty early on in the movie that Murph's room isn't the only gravitational anomaly they've seen.
Yeah.
But at the end of the film, Matthew McConaughey is only messing with Murph's room. So I am given to wonder, did TARS crash Matthew McConaughey's plane in the past? Because they said that's what caused the plane crash, was a gravitational anomaly.
I thought that, like, because
So
TARS
was it
did it.
TARS?
Yeah, I thought that too. Because is that the only way that Matthew McConaughey's character would have come to the moment where he like shows up at the NASA? Like, if he would have kept working for NASA, would none of this have ever happened? So he had to have the plane crash so that he could make it to
And,
NASA
like,
at the time he
That
did.
was my question too, is how does he fucking live next to the NASA facility that's right in his backyard and never know about it, and just ends up there one day and they're like, oh, I'm glad you showed up. We have another job for you. It's time for you to come back and work for us.
He gave
What?
himself the coordinates. You know that. You watched the movie, I bet.
I don't think it was right in his backyard. Like, we start in the morning and then him and Murph are driving for a very long time. And like, it implies that they've traveled away. Like, they changed the landscape to mountains. It seemed like me driving to like Kalispell from Bozeman, like across the state.
It's like a Montana backyard. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
only
yeah.
4 hours. Yeah. We can make 4 hours.
Ah,
It's
that's
definitely yeah. It's about the time, not the actual distance. The time on the freeway, that's how you time things.
The whole movie's time. The
Of
whole movie's time.
course.
But I want to talk, and we can start with you, Zeb, because I want to know if you agree with me that I think the best scene in the whole movie, thrilling wise, music wise, syncing up with like the character moment wise, all of the elements that this movie does right, I think are encapsulated in the docking scene.
True.
Like, it's so good. And it's one of those scenes where there's a select amount of scenes from movies that when I want to just remember how good movies can be, I'll like go onto YouTube and look up these scenes. That's one of them where I'm like, if somebody is like, yeah, I don't really watch very many movies, and I'm like, oh, you want to see what movies can do? And I'll look up like the docking scene from Interstellar, because it's got that emotional gut punch of like, this can't work, it has to. Like, and just like all the music, Hans Zimmer's score in the background is providing that extra like heartbeat raise. You don't know if it's going to work, but you also have faith it's going to work, because you know the movie's only like halfway over. So you're like, this has to work, but how? Anyway, yeah, I just think this is one of those scenes that that shows what movies can do at their best. Do you all agree? And what are your thoughts on the docking scene?
I completely agree. And I think more credit should go to Hans Zimmer than anything else.
Mm.
That's because for the same reason that scary movies aren't scary when you put them on mute, that music makes the scene. The second credit goes to the dialogue where he goes, Coop, it's not possible. And he goes, no, it's necessary.
Yeah.
And then just crushes it. Like, yes, 100% banger of a scene. One of the greats, which I just got reminded of a fun fact. The clicking noise in the background on Gigantica or whatever that water planet is, that clicking noise is it's like what is it? It's not a year. It's like every day.
It's meant to represent a day passing. So every time you hear that, that's a day passing on Earth.
They did the math for the score, and it was like every click is a day passing. Anyway, I love the scene. I think it's great.
Yeah. So I'm going to both agree with you, Travis, and disagree with you.
Of course you are.
The docking scene is by far the coolest scene in the movie, from visual effects and practical effects and doing science and people saying cool shit and the score being awesome. Yes, but the best scene is Cooper watching 23 years of video updates from his children and getting very, very sad about it.
Yeah. That was. I feel like that was McConaughey. It's like being like, you don't think I can act, huh? You think I'm the dazed and confused guy? I'll show you how hard I can act.
Yeah, bring on the reconnaissance. And also, I will say this is the second time I've watched this
reconnaissance.
movie.
I just
Yes,
want to
reconnaissance.
enshrine that on a
T-shirt.
wall.
That's our third T-shirt
Oh
idea.
fuck,
The
T-shirt.
reconnaissance.
Yeah,
Bring on the reconnaissance.
Yeah, bring on the reconnaissance. Thank you. Very
What
good.
are the other two, Jeremy? We have 3 T-shirts now. Bring on the reconnaissance.
I don't know. Is Dixon Space a T-shirt?
Dixon
Space. Dixon
There's
Space
Dumbledore's
T-shirt.
Cannibal Farm.
And Dumbledore's
Oh my God, that's what it
Cannibal
was.
Farm.
I don't know. There's something to do with Gog Magog, but we haven't really workshopped that one.
I'm gonna.
Oh yeah.
I'm writing these down in a document now.
Please
But
do, thank you.
please,
Absolutely
please
write them
continue.
down.
Please
Dixon,
continue.
Yeah.
Dixon Space is an OG callback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dixon
That was
Space.
like 3rd episode callback.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was back when you were still bleeping swear words.
Yeah, that took a lot of time.
We don't do
We've
that
come a long
anymore.
way.
We've come a long
A long way. We can
Um,
say shit and everything, and nobody will have to do anything about it.
Yeah.
That's
But-
hilarious.
You're right. That is, I do tend to like. I don't know. I think it's between those two scenes. For
I have
sure.
another scene.
but the
I wanna
black
know
hole
if Jeremy
scene-
is thinking of the same thing.
Oh. No.
Which one?
Yeah, what are you...
One of the best scenes of this film, I mean, definitely being on the water planet and the insanity of all that. Definitely the docking scene. Definitely McConaughey watching all those videos. But also, I don't know what it is, but like Michael Caine explaining that everything he did was a lie because some other thing had to happen, and that his entire career and everything, like explaining that on his deathbed, is just like, I'm always going to remember it. I'm always going to remember that. It's like
Yeah,
so
this movie's so
heartbreaking and
goddamn sad.
overwhelming, and you're so torn as to like, well, like, did he do the right thing, or is he just an awful person? Like, did he just do this because it was his job, or like, is there something really evil about him? I'm not really sure. And he just kills it.
That was great. I don't know if that one stuck in my mind. I remember Michael Caine being the villain, kind of. If this movie has a villain, but I didn't remember the
Villainous?
specifics. I didn't remember the specifics.
He says
which
that like there is no plan B. The plan B, the civilization in space, the mathematics that I've been working on, it doesn't exist.
Mm.
There was only ever plan A.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that on his deathbed to his daughter.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess that's a debatable thing. Do you guys think that's a villainous thing?
Wait, Plan A being the repopulation of Earth when Anne Hathaway takes out the frozen embryos.
That was Plan
Yeah.
B.
That was Plan B. So he was saying that there
Plan A
was
the
that there was no Plan A, Plan B. He just had the one plan, and he's been wasting everybody's time.
Yeah,
Wait.
because he was like working on the calculation to overcome gravity, right?
Yeah.
And that turns out there was just gobbledygook.
Oh, so for him the only plan was the
It was the embryos. He was
The
just going to
embryos.
let everybody die, but he couldn't tell everybody that he was sending out into space that you're
Which-
dooming the entire planet.
So yeah, on
Yeah, I
many
mean-
levels, I would say he's the villain, but maybe people disagree with me because I think that's
No, that's the point. Is
terrible-
because I think it puts you in that place of like, well, when you really think it through, like that's just the ends justify the means. You feel like you have the answer. Everybody needs to believe the lie that you told because you're trying to do something else, and you can't tell them the truth because they won't do what you want them to do
Mhm.
Yeah.
because you think you're smarter and have the answer
Mhm.
It's
because
utilitarian.
you're trying to save humanity.
Yeah, very utilitarian of like
Really, it's pure calculation, no emotion involved. It's like, yep, sorry.
It's straight up cold equations, and I will not stand for it.
no. No. Yeah, man, I didn't remember that part at all, and I haven't gotten there yet in my fourth rewatch. It had been a while since I watched this movie, but from the beginning, like you can tell it's really well done. Now, this leads me to another question though. We've talked about this on the show quite a bit, but I think there's a new lens here for it: is gray morality and movies without a definitive villain. I think there probably is a debate about if Michael Caine can be considered a villain, or if he's just a misguided man. And there is some ambiguity there with the morality. What do y'all think? Is that a good plot device to use, or is it a hard one to pull off? Colin and then Zeb.
Matt Damon as a villain, I want to see more of it.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm all about it.
That Damon is a real villain. He only
Yeah.
pressed that button to get them there, and he falsified data just so that he wouldn't be alone. That's villainous.
And he's been in so many movies as the good guy that we're like, oh, he's the good. Like they're saving him because obviously he's got it.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the
He landed
darkest
on the right
timeline
planet.
where Matt Damon is stranded on a planet easily.
This is the Martian, but he gets sucked out of an airlock.
The Martian, but he's evil. Literally though, Jessica Chastain was also the one who saved him in The Martian.
Getting tired of Matt Damon in space.
Yeah, I think this movie ruined that twist though, because I think you're right, Colin, that we were so used to Matt Damon as a hero that it was a twist. Like we were like, oh, Matt Damon's in this movie, he's sick. They're probably gonna like bring him back up to the spaceship and he's gonna help Matthew. And then it was like, hold up, he's a bad guy? What? But now we expect it. Now we know Matt Damon has the villainous side. So
Him walking away and
Yeah,
going,
we know he's for sure evil now.
him walking away going, do you see your children? Do you see your children? I'm sorry, I can't watch. And then just leaves him to die. Like, yeah, sorry. Good luck.
That's right. He says he can't watch.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
What
can't
a
watch.
bastard.
Do you see your children? All of our science says the neurochemical reactions make you see your life. Like,
I will say he has been a villain before. Talented Mr. Ripley. He's definitely not a good guy. Now I'm trying to look and see if there's others.
what's the one with him and Nicolas Cage? And it's in the Bronx. It's in Philly. He's a rat.
Oh, that's not Nicolas Cage, dude.
No, not Nicolas Cage.
Leonardo DiCaprio,
Nicholson.
The Departed. He's a villain in The Departed.
Those is other guys.
Yeah, he was a villain in The Departed. But really, I'm looking through his filmography here. That's like 3 villain roles. That's it. I can't find. I might be missing one. But
Well,
yeah,
you see, he's
he
too handsome to be
plays
a
a good
villain all
guy.
the
He
time.
mostly plays a good
Yeah.
guy. Hmm.
Uh,
Interesting.
he's definitely a villain in We Bought a Zoo.
He's like the main character.
He's a villain. Who buys the zoo? That is a poor financial investment. Villain
It's just a
behavior.
prison for animals, you
It's just a
dickhead.
prison.
Everyone else is like, look at this heartfelt story about a father like trying to rekindle a relationship with his family, and Zeb's like, this was irresponsible fatherhood. How dare he sink his like finances into a zoo?
Seriously. You want to rekindle? Go play baseball. Go play catch with your kids. You don't have to buy a zoo. That's like
Yeah,
the
just hang out with your children ever. Come on.
Man,
like,
he
like
really
bought a ball house. You know, you bought a zoo.
he likes working with Jessica Chastain. Like the more we're talking, I'm like, oh man, yeah, there's another one.
Yeah, it's as much as he likes doing random cameos and shit, which is a lot.
It is a lot. I'm very curious. It once again circles back to the Odyssey. He's Odysseus, and I'm ready to see that because
Wait,
that's a bold choice.
wait.
Oh,
He's Odysseus?
He's playing Odysseus in the Odyssey, and Christopher
Younger
Nolan's,
version?
I think, like the middle-aged journeying version.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean, Odysseus goes through the whole Trojan War, and then he leaves.
Yeah.
So
Because I was gonna say that's Rafe Fiennes, who's the older Odysseus. Right?
no, that was a different Odyssey movie. That was based on his like return. It was called The Return, and it was a different movie entirely. Rafe Fiennes plays old Odysseus.
I thought we were talking about the new Odyssey.
Yeah.
That's Rafe Fiennes.
No. That's called The Return. The
Whole
new
other
Odyssey.
new Odyssey.
The new Odyssey movie is coming out next year. It's directed by Christopher Nolan.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I just gave you this great news.
This whole time I was thinking these were the same movie.
Not the same movie. In fact, I was
I
not.
do love how
The
it
Return.
literally is the same cast that's been in all of. I mean, we're talking about Interstellar, and like all those people have been in Interstellar, including Tom Holland, Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, and then Zendaya, who was in Dune, and Charlize Theron, who was in Alien, and it just goes like on and on. Elliot
Well, there's
Page,
Yeah. That's another
they've all
question
been
I
in
had.
sci-fi movies.
Another question I had of like, Nolan's one of these directors that's emerging that like really likes to stick with a cast. And it pays off in droves for people like wow. Why am I forgetting his name? He's such a good actor.
Is it
Oppenheimer.
Cillian Murphy?
Cillian Murphy was a side character in all his movies.
And he
Loyal. He rules. And like the story is really cool where Nolan literally for Oppenheimer called him. Like they wrote the script. Or they hadn't even written the script yet, I don't think. I think the story goes they hadn't even written it yet. And they called him and were like, we're writing this from the perspective of Oppenheimer. It is a first person movie. Do you want to play Oppie? Like you're our guy. This is your time. And Cillian stepped up. And now Matt Damon's gonna get his like leading role in a Nolan movie with The Odyssey. So like I think that's really cool. I love when directors do that, and I love to see it from Interstellar too, where it's like I trust the people I've worked with before, and I'm going to keep bringing new people on to make this team grow bigger. Do you guys know, like, do you have other directors you've seen that from, and do you like that trend where you can trust that a movie is going to have the same set of actors when it's done by the same kind of director, or do you think that's limiting?
The only person they're missing is Tom Hardy, and then it would be the true ensemble for the. He would be great in The Odyssey.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah!
I don't know of actors that or any other directors that do that. So,
I mean, you've got Tarantino. You've got
Tarantino.
Tarantino is a great example.
Yeah, Tarantino constantly uses the same actors, and as long as you're reusing the same actors and giving them varied roles, like I'm here for it. Like with, like that's I loved it when Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg did it with the Cornetto trilogy, and you know, it's great when it works. It's to me a lot better than just getting the most famous yuts you can slot into the leading role.
Yeah. Colin?
Well, I don't want to talk about the Odyssey.
No, but like,
I don't know about Matt Damon as a choice for Odysseus.
no, I don't
But,
either. But like the director picking a cast that he sticks with.
I mean, I think like, you know, The Dark Knight and Interstellar, using Michael Caine and the way they do all their big actors, like I think it works. Because you don't want someone who's typecasted, or if they're typecasted, then they can kind of undermine it ideally. So I feel like Michael Caine was kind of perfect in Interstellar, and I think all the actors were perfect, honestly. They just like all knock it out of the park. And I don't know, I guess the exact opposite would be like the Fast and Furious series, where you can't even film certain scenes because of the actors.
Yeah, that's a good point where it can bite you in the butt if like you have a franchise that's using the same people, but now they're not getting along and stuff like that.
And there is an interesting thing that they you know, what was his name who did The Witcher and Superman? Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
He wants to do his Warhammer movie, and he said the problem is that there's so many good characters in Warhammer, and he can only portray one of them. And that's something that I never thought of before. Is like, if you have a franchise, you know, let's say Star Wars, like you really can't be two characters unless it becomes, you know, a Mike Myers film.
Yeah.
If you want to make a serious film, you can't be more than one actor, which does kind of really constrain you when you're talking about something like The Odyssey, where it's like Matt Damon is Odysseus. What else are you going to do? Like, he can't be another great character in that show or in that book. You know, there's a bunch of other great characters in The Odyssey, and he can only be that one. I never thought about it until Henry Cavill said it.
Counterpoint to that is Sam Rockwell in Moon. Now, he is technically playing himself.
I was going to say, I don't think that's a counterpoint, because that'd be like Robert
a lot of himself.
It's like Robert Pattinson in the new movie Mickey 17. I mean, he's just playing 17 versions of the same guy. That's the same character, though. He's not playing different characters.
Or it's the Maori New Zealander who is the clone trooper clone.
Yeah, I forget that guy's name. It's also Boba Fett, but that is also a clone trooper clone, like all those things.
And his son, yeah.
yeah, Jango Fett and Boba Fett. So that's a good point, Colin. Of you either have to have them be clones or you have to make it a comedy, and there's no alternative to like trying to play multiple characters. I love that Christopher Nolan sticks with the same cast though, and I think here's how I see it. He's established so much trust in me as a director that even though I'm with you, Colin, that I'm a little nervous about Matt Damon's Odysseus, I have trust in Nolan that like he wouldn't make that decision if he didn't think it would work. And I've seen it happen with a lot of his movies where it's like, I guess I didn't really have that doubt with Cillian Murphy, but like Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer, it's like, okay, he's been a side actor this whole time and now he's going to step up to the plate as the main character. Can he do it? Well, it's Nolan. So I think so. And Gary Oldman has always kind of been a side character in Nolan's movies. And that's weird because Gary Oldman has the star power and the main character power, but Nolan's never put him up front and center. And he still like is such a pivotal part in so many of his movies. It's one of my favorite like behind the scenes stories is, and then I'll shut up. I'm rambling. But Gary Oldman was asked in an interview once what is the best direction he ever got was, and it was Christopher Nolan in one of the Dark Knight movies. He said he did all his lines, and then Nolan just walked over to him and said, "There's more at stake." And Gary was like, "That's all I needed." Like that's the perfect note of like, "Oh, I just did this thing. There's more at stake. I'm going to do it again." And like he said, I nailed it. And so I think I have enough trust hearing stories like that that no matter who Nolan puts front and center, like Matthew McConaughey, you're gonna put the guy that's been the like pretty boy in rom-coms his whole life front and center in your space like Odyssey movie about time and gravity and the impact of family and love. That's the choice you're gonna make, and then here we are. Like Matthew McConaughey knocks it out of the freaking park. Colin.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up last time because we were talking about the importance of directors. And there's a story that in Twin Peaks, they David Lynch like told different actors completely different things. Like some actors, he said, read the lines exactly they are in the script, and that's what they did. And then other actors, he said, you can go off script, that's fine. And then other actors, so like we know that like in Twin Peaks, he treated different actors completely differently. And I feel like that's the glory of a great director, is they know how to get the performance out of the actors, and it definitely shows when a great director, you just trust what they're going to do because of the way that they are sculpting this film. They're not going to treat all the actors the same because they're looking for something. They know how they're going to work and perform, and that's what their end goal is.
And I guess that's like, and I'd love to hear y'all's opinion on this as well. Like, I think when it comes down to Nolan, Tenet has proven to me that like his story might not always hit. Like I think Tenet missed. It was it was too convoluted. Like the time stuff was like, okay, I get what you're doing. I'm a little lost in it. But it still looked amazing and the performances were still good. And I think like and Dark Knight Rises is another example. I think it's the worst of the trilogy. The ending's not very good. Still looks amazing. And for the most part, except for Marianne Cotillard's death scene, the performances are really good. But like Zeb, Jeremy, Colin, what do you like? Do you agree? Like, I think whenever I see a Nolan movie is going to roll around, I'm like, this is going to look amazing and it's going to be well acted. Will the story click?
I was thinking of this from a different perspective, which is especially when you mentioned Gary Oldman as a side character. What if theoretically Christopher Nolan just got an in with all these major actors and now he's just using them to pad the headlines? It's like, yeah, it's a Christopher Nolan movie and it's got Gary Oldman and Matt Damon and Robert Pattinson and Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. Like, maybe what if he's just doing it to, get views, and that's how he's, created such, an aura around him as a director. Like, is it because he's working with great actors that the movies are great, or is it his vision and he's just got this ensemble of great actors that are always on call?
Jeremy, that's a good chicken before the egg question.
Yeah, and I think I'll address your thing you've just brought up, Zeb. I think it's an Ouroboros of talent, where yes, he's making good movies, so famous people want to be in them, and more people will watch his movies because there are so many famous people in them. So it's just going and going and going. Now, more to Travis's question, I have never once yet walked away from a Christopher Nolan film not understanding what had happened in it. Or like the larger point being made. I think I get where there is like heady stuff happening, like in this, where you kind of have to walk in with the understanding that we move freely in 2 dimensions using machines to navigate up to 3 dimensions, and we're capable of observing up to 5, assuming that gravity is the 5th dimension. But if you don't walk into Interstellar already knowing that, then it takes rewatches to fully get what's being put across to you.
Yeah.
But I think the movies are well made enough that it makes people want to watch again, even if they didn't understand what happened the first time they watched it. See, as example, anybody rewatching Inception to see if they know whether the top is gonna fall, or you know, anything else. Memento, you got your Prestige, and whatever. But I think,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me.
I think you have a point. And before I get to Collins, like, I think, to be clear, I don't find any of Nolan's. I'm with you. I don't find them overly confusing. Like, I think some people have expressed that sentiment to me, and I'm like, I don't think they're super confusing. I think in like Tenet's case, his idea superseded his plot, and like to the point of like, Tenet was beautiful. I got the point. I thought it was really well acted, but I think the pacing suffered from the idea being way too front and center. And also it was made during COVID, and that probably affected some of it and stuff. And I think it's still a great movie. So I guess that's what I was saying of like, there's like three things that I know, or two things at least I know a Nolan movie is going to meet, and that's visuals and performances every time. Like if a Nolan movie comes out, I'm like, I'm going to the theater because it's going to look amazing. Like,
You'll want to. Although, before Colin's point, I will say that I've watched this movie 2 times. The first time was in the theater when it came out. And for this movie, for very specific reasons, that was the worst of the 2 experiences I've had watching the movie.
Oh.
Because in the theater, the score was so loud at times, I couldn't actually hear what the actors were saying.
Yeah.
And so when this movie got nominated for the Oscar for Best Sound Mixing, I was like, what the hell are you even talking about? But then I watched this movie today on my laptop with headphones, and everything sounded great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that.
You heard it from us first, folks. Don't watch Interstellar on a big screen or an IMAX theater when it re-releases. Watch it on your laptop or your phone with headphones in.
I guess. Look, this movie is making me draw a lot of weird lines in the sand. And that's one of them, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, don't do it.
Finally, Colin, we've interrupted and teased your point twice. What is your point, or have you lost it? Because we suck as hosts.
It's going to be that like religious monk description of God is just all negatives. Everything. Colin's point is everything that it was not mentioned, you know?
Yeah.
I thought Zeb made, a great point. Like the actors you choose, do those just sell the movie, or do they like remain true to the work that you're putting together? And it's so complicated because I feel like Christopher Nolan can get whoever he wants, and the price that he's going to pay for all these actors is going to be ginormous, but it's not his money. It's like some studio's money, and they're just going to cough up that amount of money. Because all those, like, what was Tom Holland paid in Interstellar, and what is he going to be paid in The Odyssey?
Was Tom Holland in it? He wasn't in Interstellar. Timothy Chalamet was.
Sorry, Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. A lot more. Because he was a nobody then. Like,
yeah, he was just a random child that kind of looked like Casey Affleck.
I think...
Or like Charlize Theron, like... She must be wildly expensive now. And Zendaya as well after Dune.
Big bucks. Yeah, big bucks.
Yeah.
I think, though, like, I think Zeb's partially right. Zeb, I think you're partially right. I don't know why I'm, like, referring to you as if you're not here. Zeb, I think you're partially right. But I think the beauty is, like, there's 2 different audiences when you're thinking of trying to make a blockbuster. There's the average viewer who's going, like, an average is not a deflammatory term here. I mean, like, the person who just watches movies for entertainment purely, who's like, oh, I'm going to maybe go to the theater 4 times a year, and I have to pick those movies pretty. Like, there's a dad at our school I talk to all the time, and he's a huge horror fan. But I'm like, oh, did you watch Nosferatu? He was like, Travis, I have 3 kids. I get 3 movies a year because that's like, I have to find a sitter. I have to like make a whole night of it. I have to figure out if my wife's coming with me. If it's a kids movie, I have to bring all the kids, and that's going to be like $150 for just the family to go to a movie. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So there's those viewers that are like, we're going to see 3 to 4 movies a year. That's it. For those viewers, I think the acting, the cast is huge. It's like, we want to go watch Brad Pitt because we really like Brad Pitt. We want to go watch Mark Wahlberg because we really like Mark Wahlberg, whatever. But for the film bro audience, I think it's the reverse, where it's like, I don't care who's in it. Nolan made it. Like, I'm going. And I think,
And
yeah,
the other thing that Zeb reminded me of too, like complicating his point, is that you don't really know how much of the film they're going to be in. Like, the number of seconds can be very short in a film. So, I mean, I think the one I recently thought of was in Dune, Lady Jessica. Right, she was played by Rebecca Ferguson, who was in the main character in Silo. And so, like, she just sort of exploded onto the scene for me, because like Lady Jessica doesn't do in the second part of the Dune series, like, I don't remember her being in a lot of it. She had important parts, but there weren't like tons of scenes with her, and she was silent a lot of the time. So you never know if Christopher Nolan's going to pull that in the Odyssey. And I think the Interstellar is a good example of that, where like these actors are like, some of the most important moments of the film are like by the child actors,
yeah,
that really turn everything.
And even like,
You don't know how they're going to get used or for how long.
Matt Damon's part is what, like 10 minutes, maybe, or
Mhm.
less. It's super
Yeah.
short. He's gone pretty fast.
Well,
And to your
Tom Hardy in Dunkirk, like, he's just a fighter pilot for that particular chunk.
yeah, he's got his mask on most of the time.
Yeah. But you put Tom Hardy on the billing, so then bam.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Very good point. Yeah. I think there's
who's the dad in Interstellar? What's the actor's name?
John Lithgow.
Yeah,
John.
Huge name.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Also, fun fact, John Lithgow might be the new Dumbledore.
I just read that a second ago.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
HBO Max series. They're going I think a book per season, maybe. I'm not sure. They haven't announced that yet. I kind of hope they do the whole series of unfortunate events thing and do 1 book for 3 episodes per book, split the seasons in half. That would be my ideal, but we'll see what HBO does, because I don't think there's not
They're
enough.
They're going to fund that whole thing Amazon style.
There's
it's just going to be 1 book a season.
There's not enough in the Sorcerer's Stone. At least until you reach Goblet of Fire, there's not enough in the Sorcerer's Stone in the Chamber of Secrets for a whole.
I mean, yeah, you can knock out Sorcerer's Stone in a day if you really wanna.
Yeah. Anyway, we're divulging, which means maybe it's time to wrap this whole shindig up. But thank you all for joining us. We always finish with a rating that is completely arbitrary and means absolutely nothing, or maybe it means a lot, and you actually agree with how we rate movies. And that is
ambiguous.
It's ambiguous.
So ambiguous. Speaking of ambiguous, I'm going to go on a slightly unhinged rant.
Please.
A little bit. Okay, so hey, scientists
will allow it,
who we know are watching this.
Yes.
If you're sending people off to planets to what you are certain is statistically their doom, don't give them a button that'll just tell people, yep, it's good here. Have like a series of slots. I know if you're trying to determine habitability, you're looking for certain levels of certain compounds in the air and the water and the soil and like livable temperatures and shit. Just Give them a box with a series of slots, not a button. Okay? That's my thing.
It's
And
true.
then-
This film does echo the science fiction trope of like the people who are supposed to be astronauts are like the worst qualified astronauts. Just like doing the exact
Okay.
opposite of what every astronaut is trained to do, just
But
like Star
listen,
Trek style.
Michael Bay's Armageddon.
Yeah. Oh, one of the
Somebody
best.
asked him, they were like, wouldn't it just be easier to train astronauts to drill?
It was
and-
Ben Affleck.
And
Ben,
Michael Bay said, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it was Ben Affleck. It was Ben Affleck was like, why are we miners learning how to be astronauts? Why not train astronauts how to mine? And he was like, shut the hell up, Ben. It was Ben Affleck. But here's my thing, though. I mean, I think there's a bit of realism here when we think about the amount of doctors that don't have bedside manner. Like, you're really good at one thing, so like everything else might just be a gray cloud. And it's like, how do doctors not get trained in bedside manner? They're dealing with people every day, but it's like they know how to fix it. They just don't know how to tell you in a way that's actually palatable. Like,
yeah.
and there's a lot of doctors that do it right, but I think there's a lot of examples.
Hospitals have done away with that problem now, and just they have nurses that tell you.
They're just like, send in the person that can actually talk like a human being.
Yeah, send in the nurse.
This is
Send in the
not
nurse.
all
Nurse be like, yeah, you're
doctors.
dying.
One of our viewers, my friend James, is a doctor. I'm sure he has great bedside manner, but he also might text me and be like, no, Travis, I don't.
He's an ER doc. What's he gonna? Hey, listen, it's broken. See ya.
There's a bullet in your
Yeah.
side.
Look, as an ER doctor, his biggest job is trying not to throw up and then also trying not to laugh.
James, if you watch this, please tell us in the comments if we're correct on that. I did
Please tell
text
me
him.
how right I am.
I did text him the other day and asked him if doctors are essentially just plumbers for the human body. And he was like, plumbers and electricians for the human body. He said, yes, that's an accurate assessment. So thank you, James. But anyway, on assessments, let's assess this movie. Jeremy, you're in my top left, so I'm going to ask you first. How many drinks
Hot
does it
diggity
take?
daffodil.
How many drinks does it take to enjoy Interstellar to its fullest?
All right, so the easiest answer is one drink for every single dimensionality on display. So we are up to 5. You can include 6 for if you think the film wanted to suggest that love is the 6th dimension, which maybe. I don't know. I don't know that they didn't. So I'll have 6. 6.
6 drinks for the 6th dimension, which is love. I like it. Colin, you're the jackalope again, by the way.
Ooh,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
jackaloping.
Anyway,
Wait for it.
I'm waiting.
I refuse to wait
You-
for it.
It's when I check our YouTube and try and talk on the podcast at the same time.
Gotcha.
There's only so much internet.
It's limited, like the 6 dimensions. But either way, as the jackalope, you can still give us your rating system.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely like, oh man, it's such a hard number. I'm gonna say like 4 drinks. And the first one right at the beginning, and then take 2 and 3 pretty close succession halfway through when you need a bathroom break anyway. And then you're gonna need another one close to the end as you ride out the ending. And those are very precisely spaced.
Okay, I like it. I'm gonna give this. Someone help me, because again, I didn't finish the rewatch, but someone help me. I'm gonna give this a drink per scene that like is so tense that I just need to chug a drink afterward. So the ones I'm thinking are the black hole scene, the docking scene, the escaping the ocean planet scene.
Oh yeah, you'll want that.
Am I missing any? That's 3.
Fighting Matt Damon to the death.
Fighting Matt Damon to the death. There's 4. I
That's
think
before he explodes.
it's
Yeah.
not the same kind of tension, but I'm gonna give like the him in the Tesseract, like interfering with Murph's bedroom.
Sure, yeah.
That's 5, because I think that's one where I need a little drink to be like, oh, my heart's going a million miles a minute. So yeah, I think that's. And you know what? I'll go with Jeremy and add that 6th one, because there might be
love.
6. There might be 6 dimensions.
To add to your point, it is a 3-hour movie almost. So if you have 3 drinks, you're actually sober by the end.
Yeah,
To drive home.
We want to be. We want to buzzed. I think.
Yeah.
To
I want to be buzzed on my own couch.
to let the like 5.
Yeah, if you have a
dimensions sink in.
DD, then
Yeah, let the 5 dimensions sink in. Get a good buzz with 6 drinks for a 3-hour movie. Zeb.
I'm watching it sober. Like I said, I can't casually drink. It's either all or none for me, man.
I like it. Very Wisconsin of you.
There's no in between. What's the point? I'm still sober by 6. I need all the beers or none of the beers.
None of the beers. Your wedding showed that. It was a good time.
Brief tangent. The wedding, it was one of those moments where it was completely mind over matter, or mind over matter. I blacked out like 3 times and pulled myself out of the abyss.
Just sheer force of will.
I called my liver. I was like, all right, hey, we're rocking and rolling. All right. Thank you.
That was a week of pure force of will. Zeb had a week-long bachelor party that was just like, I got home and I was just like, I need a week of rest. This has been rough.
You stayed with us for like 2 more days after.
It was a good time. But yeah, I was seeing 5 dimensions at the end of that. Anyway. So you're stone cold sober watching the scientific beauty that is Interstellar. The rest of us are drinking 4 to 6 for the 4 to 6 dimensions that exist. I love it. Zeb, thanks for coming so much, my friend. Where can people find your articles and my articles, and shameless plug us, please, one more time.
Oh, plug them right up.
Yeah.
It's hard to forget Meathead Media, baby. Travis and I are both lifters, and we're both wannabe film critics. So Meathead Media. You can find our posts pretty regularly. I post stories on my Instagram at Booze Cruiser.
Nice.
Or you can just Google Meathead Media Substack.
I love it. And speaking of Christopher Nolan and his frequently selected actors, I emailed Zeb 3 years ago after watching The Dark Knight Rises and said, I want Tom Hardy's what are these?
Traps. Yeah.
Traps. I want Bane's traps.
Yeah, that boy's a beefcake.
And Zeb
Zeb
being a man of science with the lifting was like, I got you. And now I have in my phone that I still frequently use a lift that says, get Travis to look like Tom Hardy. So thank you, Zeb, for that.
It's been fun. I will say though, it's having all this brawn ain't always worth it, because Travis has whooped me like a dog, like a redheaded stepchild on the dock. King of the Hill is no chance against him. He knows how to actually grapple.
We're gonna end it there. Before Zeb inflates my ego too much. I don't want that to happen. Go read Meathead Media articles. He's a great writer, as well as a good lifter and a good critic of movies. Go watch Interstellar. Have 0 to 6 beers, and you're probably going to enjoy the crazy science-ness that is that movie.
Wear headphones.
Wear headphones. Don't watch it IMAX, apparently, although I think you should watch it IMAX. As always, we've been joined by Jeremy Hudson and Colin Poynton, and our guest today has been Zeb. My name is Travis Vermolum. Thank you all for joining us. Goodbye.
Oh, yeah.
Sensational.
Thanks again, Zeb.
Yeah, man, that was fun.
Hell of an episode.